If you want to browse the internet, these days your choice is either to use Google or Firefox, because Google owns Chrome. That's fine, you might think, because you use Edge, which is Microsoft. But it's still based on Chromium. So is Brave, so is Opera, so is DuckDuckGo. So what's wrong with Chromium? Not a lot, it's actually pretty good, which is why everybody uses it. But its backend is still controlled by Google, a company not exactly known for privacy. A company that can use its power and control over Chromium to influence things in subtle yet meaningful ways. Do you really want that company to have even more control over the internet than it already does? Plus, when all browsers operate on the same backend, even if it's a great backend, a beautiful backend, they're all still vulnerable to the same attacks. So it pays to have competition and to have other options to choose from, like Firefox. And I found myself bouncing between the two for the best part of 2 decades. Normally after a fresh reformat, if I was using Chrome before, then I think, let's give Firefox a go to support the underdog. While if I was using Firefox, I think, let's switch to Chrome so I don't have to put up with annoying issues anymore. It pains me to say it, but it's always a bit of a relief to switch to Chrome, and it never seems to put a step wrong. The internet is, after all, designed with Chrome in mind. Because when you're designing a website, why would you want the hassle of designing it with more than one standard in mind? In theory, it shouldn't be a problem with correct web design practices, but in practice, inevitably it is. And Firefox always bears the brunt of any shortcuts taken. I think it's got better. There were times in the past when Firefox was horribly slow or unreliable or broken to the point where I'd be unable to reach a checkout on a particular site, or a security check would just freeze and I'd have no choice but to try it again in Chrome, where it would seem to work without a problem. And with a bit of a relief, I might add. These days, my issues with Firefox are so minor that you could argue that it's worth enduring these little issues just to stick it to the big man. The thing is, it's always Firefox with these small problems, never Chrome. But since I am now finally making this video, let's talk you through some of the issues I've had with it over the years. Translate. Chrome has had full screen translate for years, and it's been excellent. With Firefox, it didn't have this. I then used a substandard translation plugin on Firefox that wouldn't work properly on emails or on certain sites, or it would forcefully reload the page and I'd lose a bunch of data that I was wanting to translate. These days, rather ironically, I use the Google Translate extension on Firefox, and it's pretty good, if still not as good as the seemingly baked-in support that Chromium browsers have for it. Another issue I had for a while was that Firefox went through a stage where full-screen screenshots would have a black border to them. Not a problem for most people, but for me, whose work involves editing videos with lots of full-screen internet pictures, that became rather annoying. It was only a few pixels of black, and it only inconvenienced me by a few seconds every time. But those few seconds occurred a few times every hour, every day, again compared with using Chrome, which didn't have this at all. Fortunately, this is no longer a problem with Firefox, fixed during one of the stints where I was using Chrome instead. You can argue the issue was minor and fixable, but at the same time, you don't have to deal with this issue at all if using Chrome. The weirdest problem I've had with Firefox was some weird accelerated scroll feature that it seemed to have for a few months. I got this weird thing with my eyes where it would jump when I used the scroll wheel, but the page wouldn't scroll at the same speed as my eyes expected it to. This led to several months of quite painful discomfort for me, as I was seemingly unable to get used to this new feeling scroll. And then switching to Chrome, surprise surprise, it solved the problem immediately. These days, Firefox is pretty good. But of course, there still has to be a problem of some kind with it, and these days it's its HDR support, because it still doesn't have it. I don't do a lot of HDR content because it's already a huge pain to do, but when I do HDR content, I sit around for a few days waiting for my video to get HDR support before I finally remember that it could just be that Firefox in 2024 still doesn't support HDR, and sure enough, loading it in any other browser, the HDR works straight away, flawlessly. So yeah, you can say these issues I've had with Firefox are minor, because they are. But the reality is, I do still need a Chromium-based browser as a backup browser for when Firefox misbehaves. While if I'm using Chromium as my main browser, I never seem to need Firefox as backup. I love an underdog, I really do. That's why I've tolerated using Firefox as my main browser for most of this year. And even if I do switch away from it come my next reformat, no doubt I will return to it again at some point in the future. And I pray one of these days it delivers a comparable or even better experience than Chromium does. And it's funny, every time I go back to Firefox, the old issues I had with it are fixed, but they're replaced with something new instead. Looking at the browser market share, it is sobering. It used to be dominated by Internet Explorer, with Firefox in second place. Then Internet Explorer died a painful death, and rightfully so, only for Chrome to come to power and for Firefox to remain in second place. These days, Firefox isn't even in second place. It's even being beaten by Chromium-based Internet Explorer, and is battling for third place with Chromium-based Opera. That's sad. Very sad. Firefox is 98% the quality of Chromium browsers are. and as the one viable alternative, it deserves more support and market share than it's got. Yet every month it seems to lose more and more. How long will it continue to be supported for? And at the end of the day, how much does it even matter? Because Firefox has a thing or two to thank Google for. Back before Chrome, Google actively supported the development and promotion of Firefox, and since Chrome, Google have been paying a hefty amount of money to the Mozilla Foundation to keep Google as the default search engine for Firefox, to the tune of almost $500 million a year in recent times. Can Firefox really be seen as being independent when it's so heavily funded and supported and reliant on its supposed competition? It feels almost like Firefox is a puppet that serves to protect Google more than it does to challenge it these days. But what can anyone do about this? At this point, Google has their fingers everywhere, and you may hate on me for daring to slight the plucky underdog, you may virtue signal about how awesome Firefox is and how you don't have any of the problems I'm getting with it, in which case good for you, but as one of the few people actually using Firefox, I feel like I'm paying the price. A very minor price, but still paying that price several times a day, every day of my life. There's always Safari, I guess.